Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
So today, well, before we get into that, you guys should have completed your assignment by now. We actually went over it like 3 times, so there shouldn't be any issues with understanding what you would have had to do. So hopefully, one person from each group would have submitted their assignment. Now, today we're looking at chapter 7.5, searching for records. So we have a table, we have a lot of data inside of it, but how can we get specific data from that table so that maybe we can present that data or use it in some way that can be beneficial to us. So we can start back from the top, certain, and our first reader is going to be Unique. Can you read for us? Unique.
Yes, sir. Sir, from where?
Start in the first paragraph on the left.
Okay, sir. Sorting. You can rearrange the rows or columns of a list by sorting according to the value in the list. When you start, when you sort, Microsoft Excel rearranges rows, columns, or individual cells by using the sort order that you specify. You can sort lists in ascending, open bracket 1 to 9, A to Z, close bracket, or descending, open bracket 9 to 1, Z to 8, whatever. The sort can be based on the context of one or more columns.
Good. So, based on whatever data you have in whatever table, you can sort it in specific orders, either alphabetically, numerically, ascending order, descending order, however you want to present your data. You can sort any data. You can sort you can sort letters, basically words, numbers, dates, anything you can sort. Another warning. Yes. Alright, I think you're telling me. Yes. So let's continue. Our next reader, sort in a list by one field, Titina. Titina Williams.
Yes, sir. Sorting the list by one field. Click in any cell of the column you want to use to sort the list. 2. Click either the sort ascending icon or sort descending icon. This can be found in the Data tab or menu option, depending on your version of Excel.
The next one, sorting.
Sorting the list by more than one field. 1. Decide on the rows or columns that you want to sort. 2. Make sure the cursor is located within the list and click the sort icon on the Data tab, or right click and sort and choose sort. Then custom sort from the menu. Notice that a range of data will be selected. 3. Select the first field you want to sort by from the drop-down list and specify ascending or descending order. 4. Select Add Level and repeat step 3 for the second and third fields you want to sort by, if desired.
Good. So There is basically a shortcut to sorting and a more advanced option when it comes to sorting. So let me find a table, a spreadsheet. So say here we have subjects and we have grades. Say we have 1, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15. Right. Um, Spanish, English, French, Dutch. Now, if you want to sort this table here, if you look to the right here, you have the sort option. Right in the home tab, all the way to the right, you have the sort. You can either sort A to Z, but that's for the basic sort. Or you could have also right click here, right click on the data, you have the sort option, and you can choose A to Z or whichever option you want. Now, if you want to sort the second column, let me see if this, yeah, it allows you here, sort the smallest to the largest, largest to smallest, you can do it right here. But if you want a more advanced control as to how you are sorting your data, you simply click anywhere inside of the table, right click again, go to the sort option, and you will click on custom sort. So with this box here now, you can basically select however you want to sort the data. So the first box is the column that you want to sort. Do you want to sort the subjects column, the grades column? So notice I didn't need to highlight my table because just by selecting a cell inside of the table, spreadsheet automatically detected that table. So in some cases, spreadsheet can detect that we already have a table, and so you just have to select one cell inside of it instead of highlighting the entire table, and spreadsheet will detect that. So in the column area, you just have to pick whatever column you want to sort. This second value here is what do you want it to sort? Do you want to sort values? Do you want to sort colors, font color? You have a lot of control here as to how you can sort your data. So for example, if you had shaded these cells in different colors, you could have sorted the colors. Now we're going to be just be sorting values. So we're going to have cell values. And then we can select how do we want, what's the order in which we want to sort the data, smallest to largest, or we could even customize how the data is going to be sorted. So basically, with any assignment or project you get, or any work that you may get in the future, they will tell you how you sort the data, and you just have to do that in the options. Now, filtering records. This is going to be a part of your SBA. This is one of the requirements that um, CXC is going to be looking for. Filtering records, and this one here is what they'll be mostly looking for, the advanced filter. And I think Google Sheets doesn't have it, but when we get there, we'll check to see if Google Sheets allows you to do that, for those of you who are using Google Sheets. So to get us started with filtering, let's have Chazelle, can you read for us? Giselle,
Oh, yes, sir. What are we filtering records?
yes.
Filtering is the process of selecting some of the records of a worksheet on the basis of a certain criteria. Excel will list only those records that match the selection criteria and hides the others. The full set of data can be viewed at any time. Excel has autofilter and advanced filters. Autofilter allows selection criteria based only on a single field, while advanced filtering allows more complex selection criteria.
Good. So notice this.
Sir, keep reading.
No, you can pause there. So notice this word has appeared here again. Criteria. You're gonna be seeing this word a lot. So always remember when you see criteria, it's like you're asking for something specific, or you're asking a question, or you're carrying out some sort of test, and you want some sort of specific kind of data. If something is less than something, if it is greater than, if it is equal to, whatever the case may be. So that's always going to be a criteria. Now, filtering is, say for example, you have a very large table, a lot of information inside of it, and maybe you just want to see information on a specific person. So you can filter the record or filter the table so that you can only see the information on that specific person, or anything that you want to see specifically. You can filter the table so that you see the information. Now note that when you're filtering the table or any data, it does not, it's going to seem as though the data was removed, but it is not removed, it is actually just hidden. So spreadsheet hides the rest of data that you don't want, and it just shows you the data that you set the criteria for. So there's two filters that we'll be looking at: the auto filter and the advanced filter. Now, before we get into that, let me read auto filter. Celicia, can you read for us?
Yes, sir. Select a table with a header row, and for early versions of Excel, go to Data option on the menu bar. Click Filter and select Autofiller from the submenu. In later versions, you just need to click the filter icon on the Data tab of the ribbon. Notice that all the headers now have a drop down arrow in their cell. Click on one of these arrows to reveal a list of possible filters. Um, First one is clicking on a value will filter for that value. The second one is clicking on show all will display the table in its entirety. Clicking on top 10 activates the top 10 dialog box. Yeah, the top 10 dialog box. In the dialog box, you may choose the filter for top or bottom, a number value or and either items or percent. For example, you could decide to filter for the top 12 items or the bottom 20%. For,
Con-
so, okay.
Continue.
From the from the submenu,
No,
click the filter icon.
the left hand side.
Oh, using the custom filter allows you to filter for a range, such as greater than 15 and less than 30. To deactivate the autofiller, once again, click on the data option on the menu bar and select autofilter. From the submenu, click the filter icon in the data tab in later versions.
Good. So it's saying here that we basically have a table already, and in the data tab we will see the filter icon. So remember this icon here, this is the icon that you'll be looking for to do your filter. So if you go over to our spreadsheet and we go over to the data tab, notice the icon is here and has the word filter underneath. So this is for the simple filter. It's also called a simple filter. Auto filter is also called a simple filter. So let me see if you can click anywhere in the table. Yes. So to activate the auto filter, you just need to go to the data tab. You click anywhere inside the table. Once again, spreadsheet will detect the table. And when I press the filter icon, this option here, notice some arrows, some drop down arrows appeared on the headers for my column. It appeared next to the grades and next to the subject. Where this is where you carry out your filtering for the data. So with this drop down arrow now, you can filter the data however you want. So in our case, what we can do, we can click on subjects and we can even do sorting right here. Sort it A to Z, sort by color. I notice at the bottom here, we have these options where we can deselect what we don't want to show up. So if I don't want to see Dutch, if I don't want to see English, I don't want to see French, I just want to see Japanese and Spanish, I can have that selected and click OK. And notice only that is showing in my table. But if you notice on the left hand side here for the columns, notice these are in blue. And if you look carefully here, you're going to see there's some multiple lines here. This is indicating that a few of the rows are hidden. So, well, you can already see by the numbers that row 3, 4, 5, and 6 are actually hidden because it then continued with the 7th row. If you want to remove the filter, you can simply highlight back all the data. So basically whatever you have highlighted, whatever you have selected, that is what will show up in your table. So if I go over to grades, I can unselect any one of the grade numbers. So if I want to see any grades 10 and above, I can highlight 10, 15, and 21. OK. And I can see that for these subjects, I have grades 10 and above. Now, if you want to remove the filter entirely, you basically deselect the filter option from the top here. So select it and your table will return to normal. So that there is the auto filter, or another name is the simple filter. So let's look now the advanced filter, and we'll have Xavier, can you read for us?
Advanced filter. Although the autofilter makes selecting records very simple, you may wish to have more control over the criteria used. You can place criteria on the spreadsheet itself and use an advanced filter to select records. You can then tell the computer the location of the records, the location of the criteria, and whether the list should be filtered in place or copied to another location. We will use the example shown in the figure to illustrate the advanced filter. Notice in headings row 1, rank language, speakers, and percentage of population can be copied and pasted in range G1 to J1 and range G6 to J6. The criteria in G2 to J3 consist of more than 11 and less than 150. Since these criteria are on the same row, this is an AND criteria. For the record to be selected, and the rank has to be less than 11, and the speakers has to be greater than 150. We now click in the data with the original data, the range A1 to B21, and choose the data, Advanced Filter.
Continue.
Menu options or advanced near the filter icon in later versions. If you click the table first, the computer automatically selects the correct range for the table. You can now enter the range for the criteria G1 to J2. Note, if you click on the copy to another location option, you would then also choose a range where the new list should be copied. Figure shows the resulting list. If we moved one of the criteria to the next line, we would create an OR criteria. For example, if less than 11 is moved from G2 to J3, we create OR criteria. This means the record will show if either criteria is true. When we choose data, advanced filter menu options, however, we must remember to change the criteria range to include the third row to G1 to J3 in this example. Figure shows the list you get when you do this.
Good, thank you. So, just like a function like VLOOKUP, our advanced filter is made up of different parts. So if we look at this image here, our advanced filter basically has three parts. The original data, which is basically the table that we want to filter. So that's the main table. Now we're gonna have a criteria, basically a table that looks like it. So if you look at the main table, notice it have the headings rank, language, speakers, percentage of population. Now when you're creating your criteria, you basically copy the headings, you highlight the headings, copy it, and you paste it in another location because the headings need to match. It needs to be the same. So instead of you typing it back, it's better to copy and paste it so that it is spelled correctly. Now, this is the second part of the advanced filter, the criteria range or the criteria. So you have back the same headings and you put your criteria below that column. So remember your criteria is like a test. Is the rank less than 11? Is the speakers greater than 150? And after you've created your criteria, the third part or the last part is the output area, or basically where do you want the data to be filtered. There's two locations as the paragraph would have mentioned. You can filter in place, which means on this main table here, you can filter the data. So like how the simple filter would have removed the data right here. So if I unselect, just have that. This is filtering in place. The data from the table was hidden, so you only see the data that you set the criteria for. But there are some cases where you might want to still see the original data and you filter out the data to a different location so that you can see the main table and the filtered data. So only advanced filter can do that. You can output the filtered data to another location. So basically it doesn't distort the table. Now, when it comes to the criteria, there's basically two types of criteria that you'll be working with. There's the AND criteria, focus here, the AND criteria, and there is the OR criteria. The OR criteria. It's basically how we are asking the questions. So if you look at these two images here, if the criteria is inside of the same row, then it is an AND criteria. Basically what it's saying is that to carry out less than 11 and greater than 150 at the same time. So the results needs to be, so rank needs to be less than 11 and speakers need to be greater than 50 in order for you to get a result. So if we look at the table, notice all of the ranks will be less than 11, so 1, 2, 3, up to 8, all less than 11, and the speakers need to be greater than 150. So notice all of these numbers here, 160 and up, so 935 is greater than 150. So it needs to answer both questions at the same time. That is the AND criteria. Two questions or three questions, multiple questions, doesn't matter. There could actually be more criterias here. But once they're inside of the same row, it is called the AND criteria. So basically all of the questions need to be answered at the same time. Because if we look back at the main table, the original data, notice there are ranks that are greater than 11. You have 14, 15, 16, 17 and going on. And we also have speakers that are less than 150. We have 21, 59, 63, 73 and so on. But notice it did not show up inside of this filtered area because those did not match the criteria. So that's an criteria. Now, our criteria is basically if the criterias are in separate rows. So instead of being in the same row, they are in separate rows. So when you're doing an OR criteria, you are answering both of the questions, but not at the same time. You're answering if it is less than 11, and you're also answering if it is greater than 150, but they don't have to match. So you're not answering them at the same time. So basically, it's going to look to see if there's anything less than 11, and it's going to give you that result. And then it's going to also look to see if there's anything greater than 150, and then it's going to give you that result. So if you notice the difference between the two tables, this table here ended at 8 because 160 is greater than 150. But over here, it ended at 10 because 95, even though it is not greater than 150, it is not answering this question here. It is only answering if it is less than 11. So it doesn't need to answer both questions at the same time. It is answering one after each other. That's how you can remember it. So you can answer if it is less than 11 first, or if it is greater than 150, and it will put out that result. So that's an OR criteria. Answer the question one after each other. The AND criteria must answer both questions at the same time. So let's look at an example before we move on of how we carry out that. Let me take off this filter. So, say for example, this is your table. This is your main table where you have the data, and you want to create an advanced filter for this table. What you can do, what the first thing you need to do is copy the headings. So I'm going to highlight my headings, right click, copy, and I'm going to paste it over here. And I could put a heading at the top here to make it easier to remember. Margin center, and I can put criteria at the top here. So I know this part here is my criteria. Now, under each column now, I can choose a criteria. So for subjects, I can do if if it is equal to D asterisk. I don't think it showed you this. Basically, let me see if it does. Basically, you can also be equal to a letter, so that this is like the starting letter for a word, and the asterisk is called a wildcard. So it can represent anything that comes after this first letter. So if I put D asterisk, it means that anything that comes after D will appear. I'm wondering if that's going to only work for data. Anyway, don't worry with that for now. Let's just focus on the grades. Let's just focus on numbers for now. So let me create another column with numbers. Good. So in our criteria, we will put our criteria, the criteria area. So in this, so notice I created another heading here. So I need to copy back my headings again and paste them over here because I created basically a new table. So I have my all my headings here. Now here now is where I put my criterias. So here on the number I can put less than 5, and grades I can put greater than 3. So remember, this is a AND criteria because it is inside of the same row. The criterias or the questions are inside of the same row. Now, in order for you to create the advanced filter, you first can select the table, highlight the table, like what I'm doing here, highlight the table, or you can just select any cell inside the table. Because as I would have mentioned, spreadsheet can automatically detect the table. So just by selecting one cell inside of it, you can go ahead with the next step. So the next step is for you to go to data and select this advanced option. Now, this is where I was saying that Google Sheets, I don't think it has this option. So if you can check in your Google Sheets, if it has this option or if it has this advanced option, then you will be able to carry out your advanced filter. Now, notice it actually didn't highlight the entire table. As notice these lines that are going around this area here, that's telling me where the data was highlighted. They're also called marching ants. So notice these marching ants going around the data. They're telling me that this is what was highlighted. So I'm guessing it didn't pick up number because I didn't set it basically centered and bold, so it didn't detect it as a heading. So let me try that again. Select a cell, data tab, advanced filter, still. Alright. So if in that case it still doesn't detect your table, look at the options that we have here. If you can see it, the first option is list range. This is basically the range of the table. So if you want to change it, you can select this arrow here and then you just highlight the table. You can highlight any area that you need to filter. So in our case, it's going to be this table here. So it's just a case of highlighting the table. I notice the margin ants is going around the entire table. When you're finished selecting your table, select back the arrow. And the next part is the criteria range. Remember the advanced filter has three parts. Now you have to select your criteria range. Select the arrow and you highlight the criteria range. Note you're highlighting the headings with the criteria. And here now, these two options at the top, you select where you want the data to be filtered. This is the third step. Where do you want the data to be filtered? Do you want it to be filtered in place, basically inside of this table here? So let's look at that option. If you filter in place, you just have to select this first option at the top here. Make this one highlighted, filter the list in place, and if you select OK, notice the data in the table was filtered. Just like the simple filter or the auto filter, that's called filtering in place. Now remember, this is an AND filter, an AND criteria. So both of these questions here needed to be answered. So is there a number less than 5, 1, and 3? So only that appeared. Are there grades greater than 3? 6 and 15. Those two are greater than 3. So that is why the two of them appeared. So this is an AND criteria. It's answering both questions at the same time. Now, let's remove that filter. So we're going to undo. Or let's see the clear option. I think the clear option should work. Yeah. If you want to remove your filter, there's a clear option here. You just select that and it will clear your filter. Now, let's go over back the advanced filter. So I'm going to select an area inside of my table, select advanced. Notice the entire table was now selected. The margin answers around the entire table. Now, that's for the list range. We can see that is correctly selected. For the criteria range now, that's also correctly selected because it remembered what we did before. And then if you want to filter the data to another location, you use the second option, copy to another location. This is what you'll be doing in your SBA. You'll be copying to another location. So let me actually show you how it will be looking in your SBA. So in your SBA, this is how you'll be designing it. You will have your main table, and then below that you will put your criteria, because notice the headings will match. So number will fall on the number, subjects, grades, and so on. So you have your main table, your criteria is below that, and if we do back the advanced filter, The list range is selected correctly, the marching answers around the table. The criteria range, we have it selected correctly, the marching answers around that part there also. But we want to copy to another location. So we select that option and then we copy to. In this box here now, we select the arrow to basically pick our location. So we just need to pick the first cell, which is going to be here, basically where the table is going to start from. So by selecting here, the table is going to start and go out here. So I just need to select this first area, select back my arrow, and click OK. And the table was filtered to another location. So this is how, when you're doing your advanced filter, this is how it should look inside of your SPA. You have the main table, you have your criteria, and then you have the filtered data below that. Now remember, this is a and criteria. So if I copy this now over here, and copy this here, but I move the less greater than 3 to the row below. So this is going to be an OR criteria. So I select a cell inside my table, go back to Data tab, Advanced Filter, and in the box here, I look at my list range. So notice it is using this range over here. But I select my arrow to select my table here. This is the table I want. Criteria range, I select the criteria. Notice you're selecting the heading and the both criteria, the less than 5 and the greater than 3. Select the arrow again, and I want to copy to another location. So I select that, and I pick the location. So I'm going to pick this here as a starting point. So notice that it's in line with the tables. So I pick here as a starting point, arrow, OK, and notice my results. So notice the difference between the and the or criteria. The and is only showing you less than 5 and greater than 3 at the same time. But the or criteria is answering both questions one after each other. So you're seeing results for both of the criteria. You're seeing less than 5, but you're also seeing greater than 5, because the greater than 5 is answer the question of greater than 3 for the grades. So it's answering both of the questions at the same time. So notice less than 5, we have 6 here, and greater than 5, we have a -7 here. -7 is less than 3. So, but it is still here because it is answering the question over here of less than 5. So just remember, for the OR, it answers both questions one after each other. You get results for both of the question, but the AND answers the question at the same time. Now, you can have one criteria. When it comes to the criterias, you can have one criteria, you can have two, you can have as much criteria as you want. So here you can also put greater than 10. I could have continued out here less than 30. However you want to specify your criteria, that is up to you. You can have as much criteria as you want because it's going to show the results based on that criteria. So before we move off from advanced filter, is there any questions for the advanced filter, for the simple filter? Remember, this is coming for your SBA. Do you guys understand the advanced filter? Yes or no?
Yes.
No, sir. I don't understand that.
Sir, I tried.
Sir, you go over that one more time because like I lost.
Alright, let me go it over one more time. So, say for example, you have a table. So this is our table here. We have a main table. We have data inside this table. This is my students table or my subjects table. These are all the grades for my students. And say for example, I'm a class teacher. These are all the grades, subjects that my students are doing, and these are the grades that they're getting. See, this is the average grades. So this is the main table here. Now, there are some cases where you might just want specific information or specific data from the table. Like, for example, you might only want to see French, or you might only want to see Spanish, or you might only want to see a specific number, you might only want to see a specific grade. So that's your criteria. You're looking for something specific. You're gonna ask a question and that's what you want to see. Do you want to see less than 5, greater than 5, equal to 5, whatever the case may be? That's your criteria. So if, as a teacher now, I want to see all of the grades that are greater than 10, that's going to be my criteria. So for the criteria now, this is your criteria here. For the criteria, you're going to put the question, also called the criteria, what you're looking for. So the grades, if I want greater than 10, I put greater than 10 under grades. I forgot to mention that when you are creating your criteria, remember to copy your headings and paste the headings below so that they basically have the same information. So that's when you're creating your criteria. Copy your headings and paste it inside of the criteria area. Now, in that criteria area now is where you put your criterias or your questions. For the grades, remember it's falling under the same column. What question do I want to ask? In this case, I want all the grades that are greater than 10. So I just simply need to put greater than 10. For the numbers, I want to see numbers less than 5. So I just put less than 5 under the number. And that's it. That's it for creating the data part. So to actually carry out the filtering now, you select the area inside of your table. You could highlight the table. So highlight the table and then go to data and advance. So with this box here now is where you put in all of the parts. It's like how we created a function and we have to tell it the different parts. So with this box here now, we have to tell it where the different parts are. So the first part is the list range. Where is the range? Where is this? The list range is basically the table, the main table that we are sorting. So I just need to select the arrow and highlight my range. So it's gonna highlight this. I'm gonna highlight this table now. I know this is the table that I want to filter, so I select the arrow to come out of that selection area. So now, notice for list range, we're still seeing these marching ants around this table here. So that's indicating that I have this table here highlighted to be sorted. Now the criteria, this is the second part. Where's the criteria? I select the arrow to highlight my criteria. For the criteria, I'm going to highlight the headings and the criteria and the question. So notice numbers, subjects, and grades, and the two questions below are highlighted. Notice the margin ants that are going around a bit. I select the arrow again. Now for your SBA, you will not be filtering in place, which means the data is going to be hidden inside the table, but you're copying to another location. So you need to have that selected. Copy to, you're going to select the arrow again to select where you are putting the data that you're filtering. So if I click here, it's going to paste the data here. If I click over here, it's going to paste the data over here. But in our case, we want it underneath the table. So I'm going to select the first cell in row 15. Select the arrow here again. Click OK. And let me delete this here. So select that table, advance, list range is okay, criteria, highlight this here, copy to another location, here, good, and okay. So notice, less than 5, we have 3, and greater than 10, we have 15. So basically, it's like it's extracting the data from this table here and putting it into another location. If I switch this greater than 3 in this OR criteria over here to greater than 10, first I have to clear this table here. Highlight the table, data, advance, list range. Notice this table over here is highlighted because that's what I used before, but I want this table over here. So the arrow, highlight the table, arrow again, criteria range. I want this criteria at the bottom here, so I'm going to highlight this criteria here. Arrow again, copy to another location, arrow, select the location I want underneath my tables. So this is the first cell here, that's going to copy to, arrow again, OK, and I have my filtered data. So notice the OR is answering both questions one after each other. Greater than 10, 6 is not greater than 10, 3 is not greater than 10. But if you look across, 2 is less than 5. So that is why this showed up. 1 is less than 5. So that is why this here showed up. 3 and 4 are less than 5. That is why it showed up here. But 15 is also greater than 10. That is why that would have showed up also. So, yeah, Shazal.
Sir, for the advanced criteria on with the one that we do first. Sir, how come French is longer? We didn't do not with French inside the thing that we was looking for.
Remember, it's a table, and in a table, a row of information is related to each other. And remember, we have back the same table. We're basically building back the same table. So all of the information in that row will appear. But remember, we didn't put a criteria for subjects. So that's why anything in the subjects will appear. But remember, in the table, the row is related to each other. Anything in a row is related to each other. So if you want back, if you're filtering out data, that row of information needs to appear. So you can't just have 3 and 15 and not have French, because you need to know what was that subject for that row. Any other questions on advanced filter?
So I'm confused, but like for the but weren't we looking for all the things that was less than 5 and more than 10
Mm-hmm.
in the entire range?
Yeah.
Sir, so why only French come up that got more things that more less than 5 and more than 10?
We're looking at this one here, right? This one you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
Remember, this is a and criteria. Remember, there's two types of criteria. There's an and criteria, and there's an or criteria. Notice the difference. This one has the questions or the criteria in the same row. The or has it in different rows. So that determines how the question is being answered or how the criteria is being answered. The and criteria answers both question at the same time. So it has to be less than 5 and it has to be greater than 10 at the same time. So only 3 and 15 is less than 5 and greater than 10 at the same time. If,
Okay, so I understand now.
if you look at the table, there's nothing less than 5, there's nothing greater than 10 at the same time. That's why only French appear. Any other questions on advanced filter? All right. We're gonna stop here for today. If you guys don't have any other questions, you are free to leave for your break. Enjoy your next class.
You too, sir. Have a good afternoon.
You too.